The WHO has, so you may have heard that the United States is planning on offering booster shots starting next week, September 20th. That is next weekend, right? Yes, it is. So starting Monday, September 20th, the government is going to allow people to get booster shots. The vaccine requirements for federal workers may change considering boosters. Now, mind you, not all the vaccines have booster shots, right? So I believe the Pfizer BioNTech has a booster available. I believe the Moderna shot has a booster available. J&J doesn't, for example. AstraZeneca doesn't, for example. I don't even think Sputnik has a third. So there's a bunch of vaccines in the world, right? And only a few of them have boosters available. But if you do want a booster and you aren't in a certain category of people, I think it has to do with age and general vulnerability to the COVID pandemic. You can get a booster, and you may be required to get a booster in some cases. So I am of many minds on this. And my first instinctual gut thought was to be like, there are people who don't have a first shot of vaccines. It is totally batshit insane that we are giving people third doses. On the other hand, not to temper that frustration any, which it does not, we have lots of doses here that are going to waste, right? So if we already have purchased the doses and we've spent the money and they've been produced and they're living here and we can't send them elsewhere, maybe it does make sense to allow people to get third if they want. Of course, I would be more personally in favor of just having a national vaccine mandate and saying if you are healthy enough to get the shot, you must get it. Um, but look, that's not going to fly, and I get that even some on the left will say that's very authoritarian and what have you. But I think it's time for vaccine passports. Your rights end at my nose, right? And that is a little bit more literal with a pandemic, of course. But yeah, I mean, we need to fight this pandemic, and we're not doing it by doing what we've already done. So that aside, if we have the doses, you've already bought them, they're going to go bad. Maybe it's not so bad to give people a third shot if they want one, especially if the efficacy is starting to wane ever so slightly. Sorry, the effectiveness, not the efficacy. Effectiveness is in the real world. Efficacy is in trials. Just a reminder from our last episode. You get to this sense where it's like, well, we should not be wasting these vaccines, right? And we are having to throw out huge numbers of vaccines in the States. And that's a tragedy. It 100% is a tragedy. There's no reason that any of these vaccines should go to waste. If I had my druthers, right, we would share the vaccines with everyone and everyone would get their vaccination and, throughout the world. And it wouldn't matter if there were a few anti-vaxxers here, right? It wouldn't be that big a deal. But of course, the United States has made this decision without consultation of the rest of the world because America, it's what we do. And the WHO, the World Health Organization, has come out very strongly against this move, saying that essentially the point that I had made earlier, there is no reason why booster shots are required. The effectiveness against catching COVID may be decreasing, but the effectiveness of the vaccine in terms of how it prevents serious illness and death is not really decreasing that much. There's no good reason for rich countries who are already hoarding vaccines to give out third doses before poor countries have had a single dose. So I very much respect and get that sentiment. Again, I'm kind of the other mind of it, where if we have them already, we should probably just use them. But I totally get where the WHO is coming from. And by the way, this ties into other things we've talked about on the channel before: patent protections, vaccine distribution, the COVAX program, charity versus real change. I mean, things we've talked about in the past, right? This is not really surprising to anyone who's been on watching the show for a little while now, especially in concern to vaccines and the pandemic as a whole. So, it's difficult because the situation that we find ourselves in is in this one where we already have lots of vaccines that are going to waste. But I think, and then of course the other thing is, right, as soon as they get used, the instinct, or go to waste, the instinct is to buy more of them, right, to make sure that we have enough. And we are being prioritized by vaccine makers. So there's lots of problems here. Truthfully, I don't think we should be getting booster shots. I don't think it's a particularly good idea, especially because there are people around the world who need vaccines who don't have them. Of course, if a booster shot is available to you and you do feel the need to get it, or your doctor suggests you get it, or you become required to get it for whatever reason, obviously get it. We do have them in the United States. We've already bought them. Don't let them go to waste. It's a difficult situation. I wish we hadn't acted in this way, I guess, is the best thing I can say about this. But, um, we need to start thinking about how we handle problems in a global sense, right? The pandemic is an obvious example. The next one is obviously climate change. And of course, the nations who are making the fewest carbon emissions are suffering the most right now. So, we just need to start thinking more internationally with our, catastrophe avoidance and adaptation and things like that. So I hope that the UN continues to be a strong, the WHO, I mean, not the UN, continues to be a strong voice against booster shots until the whole world has done. I hope that there are, and I hate to have to say this, but benevolent leaders in rich countries who will put the priorities of getting the world vaccinated before the priorities of their country getting booster shots. It's a very difficult situation, and I'm not really happy with it either way. But I just kind of feel like this is where we are now. So, at the end of the day, you know, get the booster if it's available to you, right? We don't want these vaccines to go to waste, but at the same time, do advocate, continue to advocate that we vaccinate the world, because we will never be rid of COVID-19 and any of its variants until the world is vaccinated. So we need to keep pushing in that direction, regardless of what our domestic policy looks like at home.